I definitely think that the next 2 decades have got to be India's decade in global popular culture. The way that Korea's dominated the last 2 decades. You're
Yeah.
right, with music, with their movies, with their television, with their food. I think AI will change many, many things. And like with all
Mm.
technologies, we should embrace it, we should adapt to it, and we should learn how to use it to its
Yeah.
best effect possible.
Welcome to Money Control. Today we are in conversation with Mr. Siddharth Roy Kapur, who's not only a renowned producer, but also the founder of Roy Kapur Films. He was the former director of Walt Disney Company India and has backed many strong projects like Sky is Pink, Aranyak, award-winning Rocket Boys, and many more. Let's get talking to the man himself. Welcome, Mr. Kapur.
Thanks so much for having me, Sarika.
Yeah, welcome, sir. So let's start about your journey. Like as a producer, we'll talk to you about what draws you to a particular script or story, and how do you decide which projects to take on.
What draws me to a particular script is really the story to start with. Is it something
Mhm.
that touches a chord with me? Do I find the characters interesting? Do I find the plot appealing? Do I find the way that things play out, engaging? And is it achieving what it intends to do? If it's a comedy, is it making me laugh? If it's a drama, is it drawing me in emotionally? If it's a horror, am I getting scared? And so on and so forth. So if it's achieving the objective that it's supposed to be setting out to do, with the genre that the film is in, and that the characters are exciting me, then that's the first thing that really draws me to the material.
Yeah, your production house, has backed Roy Kapoor Films has backed a wide range of movies, be it comedy, drama, thriller. So, what is it that drives you to, explore such different genres? Basically, you're keeping everything afloat. Like you're not sticking to, like, we can't say that Roy Kapoor Films has a particular genre that they've backed. They've backed everything. So, what is it?
That's actually what I enjoy the most about what we do, that we're able to be genre agnostic in a sense. We can pretty much sort of work with any kind of genre as long as it's a film that we believe has got commercial appeal, and it's a film
Yeah.
that we believe will reach out to audiences both in India and around the world. So as you rightly said, from The Sky is Pink, which of course is a drama, to Rocket
Yeah.
Boys, which is a historical
Mm.
recreation of the lives of two scientists, to an
Yes.
Aranya, which is a crime thriller, to Pippa, which is a war film, to
Yeah.
a film like Tumse Na Ho Payega, which is a comedy. We've had a pretty interesting journey where we've tried to make all kinds of movies and series, and that's what we intend to do in the future as well.
How do you think that the film industry has changed in recent years? Because you have to adapt yourselves also and changed as for a producer specifically, because it's a big responsibility. It actually comes down to you only, to your shoulders. So how is it? How has it changed? Does it change for good or bad?
Change is change, and it always comes with good and bad, and change is the only constant. So I think you have to
Yeah.
adapt and you need to evolve and work with the change scenario. I'd say on the side that I believe is really positive. Today, filmmakers, storytellers, writers, directors have so many different kinds of stories that they can tell, whether that's for theatrical or it's for streaming. They can
Mhm.
dabble in all kinds of content today, which probably a few years ago you were not able to do because the
Yeah.
necessity of theatrical release made it difficult to attempt certain genres. But today you can tell
Yeah.
all kinds of stories.
Mm.
On the other hand, what I think is a challenge that we all need to take on and embrace is that the audience has become that much more discerning. They are now exposed to all
Mm.
kinds of content, both from India and
Yeah.
around the world. And
Mm.
even Hindi audiences are now watching movies from all kinds of cinema,
Mm.
from regional languages as well. And with that has come a certain level of discernment and a certain expectation of quality. And you're seeing it in the theatrical results. When a film does well, it does
Yeah.
better than most films could ever have done in the past.
Mm.
But at the
Yeah.
same time, some films, even with big stars, are not doing well at all. And that
Mm.
just means that that the audience is being quite brutal, but in a good way
Yeah,
when it
you're
comes
right.
to what they'll shell
Brutal.
their money out for. So I think that
Yeah.
puts that much added onus on you as a producer to make sure that you're picking just the right material that is going to reach out to audiences and that their standards are much higher today.
And so, talking about Mr. Kapoor, talking about this entourage debate that has been going on, it's been going on for long. Now it has become come out more in the public. People are saying that calling out names also. I mean, there have been producers who've called out names also. So, what is it that how do you handle the stars? Because you've handled many big stars, I would say, in the industry. So, how do you deal with it? Do you think that the demands are justified by lead actors? Because we've done a copy recently saying that the writers aren't being paid that much, but that the actors are paid a huge amount. So why this
There's,
difference, and how do you guys
there's
handle it?
Sure. There's no denying that there's a huge disparity between what actors get paid and what writers get paid. That's always been the
Mm.
case.
Yeah.
I will say that things have definitely improved for writers over the last few decades. They are getting paid better than they were being paid earlier. There are certain rights that are now sort of ascribing to them that they probably had to fight for in the past that they now don't need
Mm.
to. So things are improving. Can they improve more? Absolutely, they can. And I'm sure the whole industry needs to be on the same page in making sure that the conditions for writers improve. When it comes to entourage costs, I personally believe that there should be one fixed fee for an actor,
Yeah.
and that should take care of pretty much everything with regard to the entourage. Is then the prerogative of the actor or the actress to decide who all they need around them at what point of time. Because I do believe acting is a very demanding profession, and that you do
Mhm.
need your support staff around you. And I think every actor should then take it upon themselves to
Yeah.
decide need around them and when.
Yeah, limited
Um,
staff, I would say.
well, that's up to them. As long as it's part of the overall fee, it's up to them who
Oh,
they would choose to have
yes.
have with them or not with them.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
that will be, in my opinion, the simplest solution to the entire debate. And I
Yeah.
don't think we need to spend so much time in the industry debating this because beyond a point, you're not focusing on the things that matter, which is the
Yeah.
content itself. So I think if I were asked, that would be my solution to the entire exercise, and that I think is where we're veering towards as an industry now.
Yeah, because so I mean, as you see, Mr. Kapoor, that giving into it could also lead to a lot of production hassles. People would say that there's disparity. Now there was already disparity being talked about between male and female actors, and now this. So yeah, you're right that we can actually, there'll be fixed things, and then it'll be. Have you ever
Yeah,
faced
the
it in the
simple solution is just including it all within the fee of the actor, and then the actor takes care
Mm.
of the rush from within that fee.
Yeah. And so, do you think that it is, you've worked with both established and new directors. So, what do you look in a director? How do you support their vision?
The first thing I look for a director is a passion to tell the story that they want to tell. How much is it consuming them? How excited are they about telling the story? Are they seeing the material in the way that you think you're seeing it? So therefore, are your visions aligned in that sense? And therefore, are you on the same page on the kind of movie that you're intending to go out and make? And then, of course, the basics like are they able to handle actors? Are they able to handle large production units? Do they have the leadership abilities to be able to do that part of the
Yeah.
job
Yeah.
aside from the creative abilities? So there are lots of things that one keeps in mind when picking a director for a film, and I think it's one of the most important decisions that a producer makes.
And Mr. Kapoor, you've never worked with your brothers. Why is it? No personal and professional mixing. Why is it so?
There's actually an unwritten rule in our family where we are always there to
Acha.
support each other on a personal level, and we'll be each
Hmm.
other's cheerleaders when it comes to the work that we do. But we've each
Hmm.
forged our own paths quite well, and I think
Yeah,
we've
you're right.
we've found a really great way of being there for each other personally when it comes to the professional work that we do as well. And so we just think it's the healthiest thing not to mix the two.
That's so sweet. And sir, the Korean industry is experiencing a massive global boom. So, do you think India can achieve a similar level of global influence, and what steps would be necessary to get there? Because K-pop has, thanks to the pandemic, I think it became very big here, and OTT for us. So, how do you see it?
I definitely think that the next 2 decades have got to be India's decade in global popular culture. The
Mm.
way that Korea's dominated the last 2 decades. You're
Yeah.
right, with music, with their movies, with their television,
Mm.
with their food, with just
Yeah.
overall Korean, culture. It's been the best, sort of purveyor of Korean soft power in the world. The way that
Mm.
Hollywood has managed to do so well for the US over the last century.
Yes.
And I think that the time is right for India over the next 2 decades to do it. What do
Mm.
we need to do? We need to make ourselves open to telling stories that will resonate around the world. We need to pick subjects
Mm.
that we believe will
Yeah.
have global appeal while being very rooted and true to the milieu those subjects come from. We need to draw the world in. In a way, I think it's been a huge positive and a huge negative for us to be as big an industry as we are, because we've been victims of our own success in the sense that we've had our own captive audience, both in
Mm.
India as well as the South Asian diaspora around the world. So
Yeah.
unlike other global cinema, industries, we haven't had to reach out to a global audience because we've had our own audience already. And that's an audience that's very important and we must always cater to them. But there's no harm in being able to take our content even further and go mainstream and crossover.
Yeah.
And I think we should all be really focused on doing, in addition to what we do for our South Asian audiences.
And how do you see AI transforming the media and entertainment industry? Like, what aspect of creation or curation and even distribution are most likely to change? Because AI has actually, if you see now the iPhone 16, with the iPhone 16, the new batch being launched, AI is being talked about. So, obviously, movies or media industry, entertainment industry cannot be um, away from it. So, what do you see? How are they likely to change?
I think AI will change many, many things. And like with all
Mm.
technologies, we should embrace it, we should adapt to it, and we should learn how to use it to its
Yeah.
best effect possible. It
Mm.
has a huge potential to have cost efficiencies within the industry, massive cost efficiencies. When it comes to the amount of effort that goes into pre production, using
Mm.
AI today, you're going to be able to, number one, cut that pre production time very significantly. Number
Mm.
two, actually go very, very detailed into things like location, things like storyboarding, things
Um,
like all your analysis of what kind of what kind of crew to use, where certain sequences could be shot best, locations both in India and around the world. Your prep time can be cut very significantly and your costs can be reduced very significantly. Then of course in content creation already, VFX and
yeah.
virtual shooting flaws have created so much of a difference when it comes to the way that we shoot. And AI, I think, is going to help in that too. And again, in post production, AI will be a huge support in the post production activities as well, when it comes to streamlining cost efficiencies and making sure that the product is as effective as possible. So
Yeah.
it's time for the industry to really embrace AI and make the most of it, while ensuring that the human touch is maintained, because that's not going to go anywhere. I firmly believe that you'll always have the need for great writing,
Yeah.
great acting, for great direction, for great music composition. These are not things that are going to be able to be done without human beings. But if
Yeah.
those human beings can leverage AI to help them in that, that I think would be the most effective use of it.
And so franchisee building, this it's become something more of a focus in Bollywood now. Stree 2, Brahmastra, and you talk about any movie now, like the Bhedia, and there are a lot of franchises being coming. So how do you assess the ROI on such projects? And as Bollywood moving towards the Hollywood model, like people were saying at the Stree 2 end, ki you're making an Avengers. So I had asked a few actors also. They said, yeah, it could be. I mean, we're also moving ahead in that direction. What is your take on that?
I think there's no doubt that using successful IP to further the story is definitely
Mm.
something that pays rich dividends as you go forward. We've seen it in now so many cases in India, of course, from around the world over the last few decades. You've seen it repeatedly.
Mm.
There's no doubt about the fact that if you are able to create successful franchises, that will be a gift that keeps on giving. And the true value of your IP will be when you are able to leverage it in other forms of media as well, in addition to creating sequels and prequels. And when
Yeah.
you're then take it into merchandising, take it into licensing, take it into other areas, having created those characters and those worlds is when the true value of the IP will fully be realized. So I think it's great that we in India are now moving in that direction, and I think the sky's the limit when it comes to how far it can
Yeah,
go.
actually. And so, with increasing consolidation in the media sector, how do you think this trend will impact content creators? The AI, mixing with the introduction of AI. So, will it present more opportunities, or it could be a challenge for creative freedom as well?
I think AI will definitely present many, many opportunities in being able to improve on our production processes and our storytelling abilities. But there will be certain questions that will emerge that will need to be answered when it comes to ethical and moral practices with regard to the use of AI, when it comes to the usage of people's likenesses, voices, personalities, faces. All these things will be answers that we will have to come up with as we go along. As
Mm.
with all new technologies, there are those larger questions to be answered. And I think
Mm.
globally, they're probably a little further along in the process in answering those questions than we are in India, probably because we are going to be adopting it a little bit later than they did. But
You're right.
there's no doubt that those are things that will need to be ironed out as we move forward. But the overall fact is that AI is not going anywhere. We might as well learn how to leverage it to the best of its use and use it to help us make better movies at lower costs. And that's really the best that we can do with the changes in technology.
How have production, now you're talking about AI and the production costs going down, so how have production budgets changed over the years? I mean, we've seen that they've gone up. Now are we seeing increased spend expenditure on talent or VFX or writing? How has the revenue recovery evolved over time?
I'd say cost structures have definitely changed. Of course, there's been inflation and things change with inflation anyway. But with the ambition of the kinds of movies that are being made, so from a Kalki to a Brahmastra to a Ramayana
Mm.
now,
Yeah.
our ambition is now to be able to use technology to be able to tell stories that might be in mythological worlds or fantastical worlds. And that's a great sign, I think, for Indian cinema, where we're moving forward into telling, other kinds of stories that we probably did not feel like we had the technological ability or the
Yeah,
budget to be able
you're
to tell in the
right.
past.
Yes.
And the box office is rewarding. The ones that work are really being rewarded with
Mm.
uh, revenues that are far higher than films have been making in the past.
Bilkul,
So I
bilkul,
think that's the
yes.
growth of the industry that's propelling us forward. It's the growth in
Mm.
technology, the growth in ambition, and really, I mean, it's this is a business where if you have a belief in something strongly and you believe that it will connect with audiences and you're able to get the right creative talent together to be able to make that happen and go in with full conviction, then the box office will reward you.
So, like you said, that, it's rewarding very well. There's another question where I want to know that movie like Three, it would have been made at a limited budget or a Munjia, but it is very rewarding, like you said. So, what is it that are people being choosy, or we're not giving them the right content? What do you think? Do you
No,
think that
that's a great
star
sign.
value is going?
I don't think star value is going, but what this is showing you
Mm.
is that today, even a film without big superstars can go out and do
Hmm.
the sort of business that big superstar films have
Yeah,
done, or even more.
yeah.
And that I think is a wonderful sign for Indian cinema. That shows
Mm.
the evolution of Indian cinema. Stars will not go anywhere. We love our stars. We enjoy watching them in movies.
Yeah,
That will always be
right.
the case. But the
Hmm.
fact that a Stree 2 could come in and do the sort of business that a Jawan or a Pathan have done
Actually, yeah.
at the budget, at the much lower budget than it would have been made at,
Hmm.
I think is the best sign possible for Indian cinema.
So do you think, how do you handle the business side of filmmaking then? I mean, what are your thoughts on the current state then? Like, it's a continuation of our thing only. Like you're saying, a Stree 2 made on a very low budget competes with a Jawan and a Pathan. And so, what is it that you look into it? Now things
What
are
I think
changing.
it's what I think the market is telling us and what audiences are telling us is that if we give them something compelling, then they will reward us even more than we could hope to be
Hmm.
rewarded in the past. But
Hmm.
if we do not give them something that meets their standards, given that they are now exposed to all kinds of content and have so many other avenues of entertainment, then they will not give us the benefit of the doubt. I think we should take that on as a challenge. That's a wonderful challenge, actually, which makes us up our game. And why should we be scared of upping our game? I think that's the challenge
Yeah.
audiences are throwing at us. So let's take it on.
So your next is Matka King with Vijay Verma.
We've got
So
Deva with Shahid Kapoor that releases in
huh,
Feb.
they also
The
wrapped up
international thriller with
recently.
Zee
Yeah.
Studios. We just wrapped up the film. So that we're very excited about. And then we've got
Yeah.
Matka King, which releases on Amazon Prime in the latter half of the year.
Huh. So you have both theatricals and OTT releases. So how do you
That's
mix and match with these?
Oh, it's great because the team gets to work on all kinds of content. We work with all kinds of
Yeah.
filmmakers, all kinds of actors. We've got so many projects in development, in active development, both
Hmm.
in the series and the movies front. That I think is the most exciting part of about the business, the varied kinds of stories that we can tell.
So, do you think that OTTs actually, as we were talking about Korean industry, entertainment industries boom now with the OTT, but do you think that OTT is also becoming another replica of Bollywood? I mean, do you think that? I mean,
Not
are we
really.
actually restricting ourselves, or are we just pushing ourselves into a certain direction? Like we'll have only spy thrillers, or we'll have one genre that we will follow. So, do you think it's a good trend? Is it? Isn't it
It's a
alarming?
fair question. I think it's a fair question to say that it feels like we've had a lot of dark and edgy
Yeah.
and thriller kind of
Yes.
content on OTT.
Hmm.
But I do know the platforms are very cognizant of that and are now looking to
Hmm.
expand the genres that feature. It's probably inevitable that when some things work, then you tend to make more of those things, and therefore, there are certain
Yeah.
genres. I know after Sholay, there were a whole lot of westerns that were made. Like sort of Daku movies
You're
were made
right.
through the rest of the 70s. In the 90s, you had love stories, and then there was one love story after the other, which was
Yeah.
based in, which was catered to the NRI audience. You have these phases in cinema and there's these
Yeah.
phases in creativity where inevitably, creative people get drawn towards something that seems to be working. But things find their own level very soon. And I do think you'll see a lot more variety of content on OTT,
Yeah.
go forward.
Because the Matka King and the Deva look different. I've seen a few.
Yeah, they are very,
They
very
look
different.
completely
They are
different.
two
Yeah.
completely different kinds of content. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Siddharth, for talking to us and giving
Sure.
us such lovely information. Very nice talking to you.
You're welcome.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for having me.